Hey everybody, it's the Red Zone. It's Thursday and we're here right now from downtown No Wi-Fi Garden City right now, downtown. And you know what? We're here to get closer together here in the fourth quarter. A lot of districts are already finishing. I'm seeing graduation, everything. But you know what? Doesn't matter. PD doesn't stop because we need to learn from each other, especially from such a interesting roller coaster of a year. We had some good highs, and oh my lord, recently we've had some lows. But you know what? Let's reflect on 22, 21, 22 right now, all together from all over the country, from Alaska to Hawaii, from Maine all the way to Florida, and everywhere in the middle. We need to have your reflection. Let's learn from each other. What did you learn this year? What made you prosper? What set you back with obstacles? The only way we're going to find out and sharpen our tools in their tool chest is from each other, because that's what education is all about. Education is from learning from each other, beg, borrow, and steal, and make it your own with your special style. So you know what? Let's get ready for the red zone. Let's learn from our team members inside of the trenches. Take it away, Dean.
Hey, amigo, great to see you, and I'm glad that you got settled in there right there. I don't know where you are, but it looks like you're in the middle of downtown, huh? Garland, Texas. That's pretty nice. I'm sitting in downtown my office tonight, so we definitely we're grounded here. There's no doubt about it. Hey, last week we had an opportunity to have some of our own educators on talking about their school year. You know, today we venture out a little bit. We're trying to get somebody outside of our learning community and to be able to talk about their push to the finish line. And I'll tell you what, this is where we learn together, and we see that we have a lot of common denominators. And it's about taking care of ourselves, making sure we're taking care of our kids, and having the best impact we possibly can as we cross that finish line. So, hey, without further ado, let's bring in our cast tonight, and we're going to have an opportunity to meet all of them. And there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. Listen, what I'd like to do first and foremost, and actually before we start,
hello.
There, hey, you know what? Let's go across the board. Let's start off with Adrian. Why don't you start off, introduce yourself, where you teach, what you do.
I'm Adrian Sola. I am originally from El Paso, but I am teaching at La Promesa. It's a newcomer academy, brand new. It was their first year, and I teach 9th grade English.
Nice. Well, welcome to the show, Adrian. We're down to Jennifer right now. We have a few technical difficulties tonight. That's normally not the case. Normally not the case. Jennifer, welcome back to our show. You've been on before. It's great to have you again.
Yes, no, thank you so much. My name is Jennifer DeGraff, and I am still in El Paso, Texas, Adrienne. So I'm not sure. When I think about the finish line, I feel like we had really envisioned this nice, clear path along the way, especially as a lot of us are trying to kind of overcome some of the different difficulties that have happened as a result of the last couple of years. And so as that pathway appeared straight in the beginning, it really turned into more of a roller coaster of highs and lows for different perspectives. As a parent, I'm a parent, I'm an educator, and right now, as much as I would like to be able to predict what's going to happen, all I can really do is learn about how this trip has gone. So thank you guys so much for having me here today.
Pleasure to have you back. Athanas.
And I'm Atenas Vallado. I'm from Austin, Texas, but I'm from El Paso as well. And I teach at 4th grade language arts in Barrington Elementary.
Welcome.
And I'm happy to be here.
It's good to have you here. Your voice is very important to us. Hey, let's talk a little bit about what your goals were and ideas for 2021-22 prior to coming, we'll say, I don't want to say, I could say out of COVID, back into an almost normal world, and then having everything lifted and everything back to pretty much normal by mid-school year. So let's talk about that as you started off to where you are now. So why don't we start off with Adriana?
So my goals, I guess, for this year, it was a brand new school. So this is my 7th year teaching, but going into a brand new school, a first year school opening, being a founder teacher, for this new academy, newcomer academy, I was just kind of really going in it with an open mind and trying to just kind of see honestly, because of the years before, the last 2 years have been really, really difficult. I tried to go in with not the least expectations, but just go in there with an open mind and just kind of give me just start working, I guess, with the idea that I'm going to take whatever comes and work uh, the best with it and try to do my best with what comes. And I think it gave me a lot of anxiety to try to predict what was going to come, especially after the last 2 years. So I was going into this year hoping for a new beginning and hoping for um, just to be able to run with the punches and do the best that I could with what came.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. That's pretty solid. I mean, it's a good way to look at starting off. There's no doubt about that. Jennifer, from 2021 into 2022.
I think the start off, honestly, the focus was on making sure that we were mentally prepared to kind of come back and really get back in rhythm. I know that it has seemed like from 2018 to literally 2021, things seem to be just kind of going up and down and in and out. And really, when I started out the year, I was super excited. I was super pumped. I mean, we went from virtual to 100% live, and there's such a difference in going from virtual to back to live, because now we can do nonverbal connections. We can be a little bit more like cognizant of how are our students doing, how are the adults doing, how are the parents doing. And so when we started out the year, I really felt, I guess, emotionally super pumped about it. And then I kind of realized that maybe I was needing to kind of even get myself under a little bit of self-management, not hold such, extreme expectations. I needed to be a lot more realistic on the change. I was able to kind of, from the perspective of the teacher to the perspective of the students, it was a rough kickoff. It was not really the way we had hoped it would be.
Thank you very much. Dennis.
So my goals entering this school year was to help my students to reintegrate to the school environment, like coming back in person and helping them like filling their gaps, especially because I know that they had a really bumpy second, because they were in second year when I'm second grade whenever the pandemic started, and then third grade was a mess for them too because they didn't have teachers because they were out for many reasons. So I knew that they had like a lot of academic gaps, but I was not as aware of the emotionally distress that they had. So it was kind of like a huge impact because I was like more focused in the academics, and then I realized that, oh my god, they need more than that. But that was my main goal, to like help them reintegrate to the coming back to normal at the beginning of the school
And,
year.
and you know what? Thanks for sharing, guys. And the thing is that, like everything else, we always start with a plan until we get that 2x4, right? Something always happens along the way that we have everything set, and then boom, the fire alarm goes off, the fire drill, or you're having a, and then you plan a great lesson, and then something happens. Well, this year is specifically that. You had these goals set up for your students, you had these goals for yourself. What event made you realize, it ain't gonna happen? There had to have been something that told you, because you know what? As educators, we let go of stuff, right? Noise happens every day. It always happens. But then there was something that it all built up to this one. Boom. What was your turning point, Atenas?
In my case, my turning point was the lack of staff. We didn't have a counselor the whole school year, so I had to step up. I'm a psychology major, so I asked my principal if I was able to use what I learned, and she said that I could do it as long as I keep everyone safe. So that helped me, but the lack of staff was what killed my dreams at the beginning of the school year, because we had extra kids almost every day because they didn't have teachers to cover. So it was our classroom and then extra kids from other classrooms. So it was impossible because they were not able to sit down and engage in a lesson because first they were not used to, and second they were not my students. So they're like, why am I gonna listen to you? So it was really hard on that area. No counselor, no teachers.
Adrienne?
Um, I think for me, it was mostly just because we are a brand new school. I was very happy with the staff when I first met everybody. With our administrator, Miss Flores, you've met her. But I didn't really know what to expect because it was a brand new school and we're trying to do things differently, but yet still trying to like go with what it is that we've always done because that's what we know works and things like that. So there was a lot of things that we would get really confused on, and the lack of communication would kind of like, or not really lack of communication, it was just like everybody was trying to figure it out and we were all trying to figure it out together. And as we're going on teaching and we have, you know, 49 kids to worry about every day, it was just kind of hard to really put everything together and really um just, I don't know, it was just hard to get that ball rolling enough for us to get our stride and figure out our systems and figure out how were things gonna work for us. Especially because it's a brand new school and we were all coming from different backgrounds, all coming from different places. So it was really difficult to kind of really put us all together. But it started to work out. So that's kind of what was the most difficult part of this year.
Jen, from the district SEL point of view, what did you notice? What did you observe?
I honestly feel like we went forward with the student perspectives on when it comes to mental health and that social emotional the setting. Both of our lovely teachers were just talking about, prior to the pandemic, let's say they were in second grade and now they're in fourth, or they were in fourth grade and now they're in sixth, and our focus was on students and their wellness and their mental health. And the mistake that we made, to realize that the bulb that turned on, was why weren't we starting with our administrative teams and then perhaps moving down to like our counselors, our CTCs, those are like our, coaches that are helping our teachers. Why aren't we starting with our teachers? Because if we would have really, that was kind of like the stopping point, where if we're not able to make sure that again, the mental health of our administrators, our support team, our adults, our teachers is not addressed and supported first, then it's going to trickle down to our kids. And so that was definitely an eye-opening before we really want for our teachers or our administrators to focus on climate and culture and welcoming them back. And like you were talking about teacher shortages, we've got teachers that you no longer have a PLC or a prep. We need you. We need you in room 134 during your PLC time or during your prep period. And so rather than us focusing first on the adults, we were focusing on students. And that was the 2x4 that made us realize that the focus needs to begin with adults. And then it will trickle down to our students.
You know what? You know what, Jen? I think that's a valuable thing that you mentioned right now, because, and I need to. I'm a advocate for everybody, and you hardly ever hear me. On the contrary, I think I attack administrators a little bit more than anybody else. But you know what? No one does reach out to the chair from above or from below. No one does reach out to the AP either to say, "Hey, are you okay?" Some of us have thick skin. Some of us can deal with stuff, but that's not everybody. And I think, Jen, that you hit it right, a great bullseye, because you know what? People don't ask the chair. They think, oh, you're the leader, you should know it all. No, I'm a human being. I eat my tacos like you eat your tacos. I put on my pants the way you put on your pants. And you know what? I got a family too, and maybe my kid got COVID and got hurt. So you know what? Let's not forget that as a collective, as a POC, and the definition by solution tree of POC is the whole school. The whole school. That's a POC. And as a POC, we need to take care of each other. So at the end of the school year, part of the fourth quarter, that's one thing that we all should remember. is that the chair also requires a, hey, ¿estás bien? Are you okay? Because you know what? We're only stronger together, just like you said, Jen. Because you know what? Whenever the chair sneezes, the school gets a cold. So we need to make sure that we're wrapped together, making sure we support each other. Dean?
Jennifer, I'm glad you said that because what's going through my mind is triage. We were all in triage throughout this entire year, and we can never say that we truly hit our stride in any capacity. But I will say that I know the educators in my building have done every single thing that has been asked of them, and I'm sure that's the same across the country. And what that does is it does wear you out. And you're 100% correct when you talk about teachers covering classes for each other, trying to get in, having 15 people out because of COVID or whatever the case might be, having to be strategic about placing kids in a gymnasium or in a cafeteria, combining classes. That's not easy. That's nothing is normal about that. Okay, so that makes it very difficult. So my next thing, and what I was thinking about, and I like what Richard Allen says right here, as a principal, central office administrators, I preach that adversity doesn't build character in teachers and students, but rather adversity displays character. He's so right. He's absolutely correct. So take adversity as an opportunity. There's no doubt about that. And, adversity creates teachable moments and the building blocks for leadership. And I say it all the time, as leaders, what we do is we empower our teachers, we empower our students, we empower everybody around us and give them the abilities to be able to take risks, go out and do things differently. And I'll tell you what, we've done things differently throughout this entire year on every absolute cylinder. So that being said, let's talk about what maybe some of the personal gains were for you guys as educators, because you know what, whether you're at the district level, in the chair where I'm at, or if you're in a classroom, we all did have gains. And it's that personal stuff that we had for growth that's going to make us better coming into our next school year. So why don't we start off with Athanas? You go first, please.
So my gains were that even though it was hectic and chaotic, my students gained at least 2 reading levels. They increased the reading levels. And what I felt even more proud of them is that the week before they start, they were like, Miss Vallado, you know what? I'll feel confident I'm going to meet my goal because we've been working so hard and I know I can do it. So to me, that was like, okay, we made it. Like, I don't care if you don't make it. As long as you have the positive attitude, that's all that matters. So that was my gain. And also that they knew that our classroom was a safe environment and they were able to share anything that they would like to. And they were able to speak up and share their gain, their loss, their feelings. And that was something like really, really, that's the reason why I love my job. Like, see them perform the way they do, gain confidence. So
I love that. Adrian.
I really think that I can answer this in 2 ways. One, with the gains from my students. As I was saying, we're a brand new school of newcomers, and these are kids that are brand new to the country. 3 years or less have been in the United States. Most of them had been here for months before they started school. So just making sure that they felt comfortable, and they felt that they were in an environment where they can grow was one of my biggest goals for the year. But then also they just kind of overpassed that from the start. Our results for testing and things like that were beyond what we ever expected. They had the most growth within the school district for math, and in reading they were the third highest of growth in the school district. So coming from a school of kids that had just gotten to the country, have never been in a U.S. school system, to have that kind of growth and to kind of have that was amazing. And I think it did attribute a lot to our relationship building. Each and every one of our teachers on this campus loves kids and wants the best for them. And I think that was the biggest part, or the most awesome part of working here. And then also on my personal side, my personal growth, personal gains, I think I truly became confident in my teaching. And I think that's attributed to leadership as well. My principal was my appraiser and came into my classroom, gave me feedback, told me that I was doing a good job, and also told me what else I could be working on. And I honestly, within the 7 years of teaching, I hadn't really ever gotten that from a leader, which kind of made me a little sad when I reflected on it. But it just kind of gave me more of a positivity of that I'm where I need to be, and the confidence of being a teacher and knowing that I'm a good teacher and going home every day feeling like I did a good job, was an amazing feeling. And that was one of the biggest growths, I think, for me personally, is just having confidence in my craft and confidence that I'm doing what I need to be doing, for our kids. So
I love that. Jennifer from 10,000 feet.
You know what? I think that when it comes to, I'm kind of even reflecting back as you guys are sharing, your side of, you mentioned the term relationship building. What we ended up finding out really at the change in the game, it almost feels like, I mean, we didn't technically go from, baseball to soccer. We went from maybe softball to baseball, right? So, I mean, we're still thinking about really very similar rules. But when we had the joy of having the light be turned on, it came from the perspective of student voice. And the reason that the student voices reminded us that their voice matters and what they have to say in terms of what could be better, what's not going well, I guarantee you they know far more than the adults on the campus on how things are going. You were talking about, having students in U.S. schools for the very first time, or maybe in the last 3 years. Either way, we built student ambassadors and decided that those student voices were going to be heard. And so what we ended up doing is when we thought about our stakeholders include parents. And as a parent, all you got to do is ask me and I will be there. A lot of our parents say, you know what, no, thank you, I'm not able. Okay, great. But are we really providing them that opportunity as a stakeholder? And so one of the things that I love is that you're kind of mentioning, let's say that you've got, you're responsible for 32 kids in a given day or in a given class period. Of those 32, there's probably 5 or 6 of them that would love to assist. They would love to help you organize your folders. They would love to help you make sure that whatever it was you're teaching, they could reteach. Let's collaborate. Let's give students the right. When we decided to go ahead and start requesting assistance from various stakeholders, suddenly we started to feel more like family. And that's really where things started to turn around for us. And it really kind of leads us into how does that really change moving forward to 2022, 2023? And not that we're even there yet. We're at the finish line. I'm not even sure we're even thinking about it yet.
And you know what? Those are great things that you all mentioned. Like you said, Jen, I was reflecting on what, as you, Atenas, and Adrienne were talking, because all of you face different adversity at different levels with different situations. And that's what I said since the beginning. Dean could tell you that we were all going to face this equal tsunami. It doesn't matter what state, if you were an IB school or if you were a newcomer school, it doesn't matter. We all face the same nonsense. And so it's crucial that as educators, we hold on tight and reach out across social media to learn from each other. But for me, I could only tell you, I think I'm wired differently. I think Adrienne could tell you this. I'm totally wired differently. I believe more in learning from my losses. I learn more from my negatives. Gains are good, but I want to be punched in the nose with an error. That way I never commit it again. That way no one throws anything in my face. So based on what you've experienced so far this year, give me a setback, 2 setbacks that you faced within this academic school year. Adrienne.
I think one of the big ones was learning new curriculum. Our school district kind of adapted a new curriculum. And then also, it wasn't just adapting a new curriculum, it was adapting a new curriculum for newcomers. Because what is written for the state of Texas, is written for kids that are at level or maybe even beyond, because some of the things that I had to read were difficult for me to read. And just to take that and to have to really learn how to take something and adapt it to our kids, we had to know our kids. And it was very difficult to like really learn how to put all of these things together and then modify them, to make sure that we were reaching the level of our kids and making sure that they were able to grow. So that was a big one for me, because as we all know, as educators and teachers, time is never on our side. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of digging deep into what our kids need to learn to really be able to present it in front of them at a good level, at a level that's perfect for them. And it's really hard. So I think time and definitely learning the newness of it all, this year was that setback for me. But as educators are, we're resilient and we just kind of push through it, and we're able to make things work. Um, and now I'm just looking forward to being able to take what we did and just make it better. So yeah.
Perfect. Atenas?
Um, I kind of agree with that, Adrienne. One of my setbacks was like, this year we have to enforce, like fully enforce the dual language, because it's a new program that they adapt across the district. Uh, Before we were just bilingual, but now we're dual. But the kids had so many gaps, like academic gaps, that it was really really hard for me to incorporate, like keep it in English without giving them the scaffolding in Spanish right in the moment, because they were so behind with academics that the language was another issue. So having them learning both at the same time, it was like really, really stressful. Um, but we were able to manage it towards after December that we came back from the break. It went better after the second semester. And the second setback that we had was, since we are an F campus, we had like a lot of walkthroughs from administration, and they were always taking us away time. Like, I mean, I understand they had to do their job, but it was like they're not allowing us to teach the way we could teach for them to learn. They wanted us to teach a certain way, and that took away a lot of time. So I feel that was another setback, that it was hard to recover from that. But we made it. So
And I think later on that would be a great idea. What you were hearing from central office, that's a great discussion for later on, Atenas. Because you know what, when you're an F campus, until you're that, you don't realize what the huge thumb that TEA and central office has under you. And I know that some states, we had a visit from Reno to visit our campus yesterday. They did away with state testing in Reno. They only do SAT, ACT. That's it. And so it's one of those things that they're like, well, it's good and it's bad. But I digress. Jen, I know you could go on for hours on this one right now. What did you notice from the different level setbacks?
You know what? I don't even like to use the term HB 4545, because ultimately it reminds me of, those where you kind of have like it almost feels like a little stab. And so I feel like one of the major setbacks with that had to do with, now not only are we going to be, as a state, and of course I know everything is different, kind of across the US, but we're going to mandate that we are providing additional academic / tutorial support for students who are behind. But in addition to that, now we're going to eliminate the advisory periods that were really slated for things like self-awareness, social awareness. We had advisory time built in to the calendar and into daily or weekly routines where we could get a little bit more accustomed from the grade of, kinder all the way through our seniors, had the opportunity to really kind of get reacclimated into the setting of school, and the social setting and relationship building and self-management, communication. we had that built in, and due to the fact that that HB 4545 was put in place, a lot of our students, a lot of our teachers, they are now, you had mentioned, Adrienne, I mean, it's time sensitive. I mean, yes, because time matters. And if we're stealing time, now we're going to take time away from your planning opportunity or your opportunity to socialize. And even as adults, now I'm going to even eliminate your PLCs, because instead you have small group tutoring, no more PLCs, no more collaboration. Now that was really, really one of, well, I could probably go on with more than just two, but those were probably the two biggest factors, was when we turned a shoulder away from the mental health and focused it more on the academic health. Guess what ended up happening? Our discipline went up, our attendance went down, and instead of us really trying to kind of build back the in-person socialization of academics, what ended up happening is it was a lesson to be learned and not to repeat.
You know, you're right. 100% correct and spot on when you say that. And as we reflect back on everything that we've done this past year, I can't help but think about, you know, if you really had to toss something out there, what were your gains? What were your gains? How do you see yourself as becoming better, you know, out of this whole process? And why don't we start off with Jennifer and work it backwards?
You know what? One of the most precious parts of this particular year was the importance of student voice. And it's not just their voice. They want to act. They want to help. And I feel like previous to the 2021, 2022, I mean, the current year that we're in, we didn't really recognize how valid and how crucial our students' role was when it came to schooling. And so I'm going to use this as the example. We started out the year with approximately 30. We have 80,000 students, right? 80,000 students. We started out with 30 student leaders in 9th through 12th grade alone. And that was from the district level, to get their perspective, to get their insight, to tell us what to do. We need our students to tell us what to do. So we started with 30. We're ending the year with over 1,200 student leaders on our campuses. Why does this matter to me? Because guess what? The climate and the culture is improving on our campuses because we are allowing students to take the lead. If we include them as part of our continuous improvement planning, we get student perspective. Guess what? It kind of opens our eyes from the eyes of our kids. So it doesn't matter what level they're in, if they're third graders or fifth graders or ninth graders or they're seniors and they're graduating. Tell us what we can do to improve. Josh, you had a great point. I love to think about some of the gains that we've done, but I'm in continuous improvement. Like, what did we do wrong? You know what we did wrong? We limited it to high school only. This next year, we will have elementary, middle school, and high school students as part of district panelists to be able to not just guide the district, but now we're going to help them help their administrative teams back on campuses when it comes to improvement areas, because I tell you what, they have changed more in the perspective of improvement than anyone else has yet.
Adrienne.
I think, as I was talking earlier, like the confidence that I built as a teacher was a definite huge gain. But I think that goes along with what you were saying earlier, Jennifer, is that we were forgetting to talk about the adults, or forgetting to really pay attention to what the adults needed. And I feel like that was a big thing for me, because I was a better teacher because I was more confident in my own skill, and that came from leadership. That came from having an administrator that really did value and care about me as a person and a teacher. And I think first and foremost, as a person first. And I was able to build those relationships with those kids and kind of break down those barriers that I had built up because of the last 2 years. I had, obviously, because of COVID and all of the crazy changes and all of that, like my confidence level and my morale when it came to education was just not where it was. And Mr. Tovar will tell you too, I've always wanted to be a teacher. Like, this was me from the very beginning. So having those emotions and having those feelings that I almost wanted to quit was really, really detrimental to me. And then in terms my students. So this year, just being able to be more confident with what I was doing and being able to feel like I'm doing my job and doing it the best that I can, and hearing that I'm doing it well, um, was really something that opened my eyes to know how beneficial it is to really put yourself in a situation that's going to be positive for you. Put yourself in an environment that's going to be positive for you, and take care of yourself, because in terms that's what makes you be a better teacher for your students. And that's where those relationships are built, because these kids can look up to someone that is okay. I'm not going to say the best ever, because we're not, but definitely looking up to someone that's okay, and looking up to someone that they can trust to open up themselves. So
we can never forget we're part of a learning community. When you start talking about a listening student voice, teacher voice, caregivers, parents' voice, it's all part of that continuous growth cycle. And you can't be so egotistical not to think that their voice matters. And I think, honestly, the older I get in leadership, the more I understand how not important that I am, except as long as I keep the rudder moving in the right direction so the ship sails forward. That is the ultimate part of being a leader, and that's just encompassing all voices. Athanas.
I agree with Adrienne. I always tell my students it's okay not to be okay sometimes, because we always have to come back to be okay, like work towards it. And I think one of my gains about with all this school year is that I learned that I can endure much more than I actually thought, and that I learn from my challenges. Like, I learn new skills, I learn new strategies, I improve in my teaching skills, and I think I kind of improve on building relationship with my students in a deeper context. Um, so even though it was a really tough year, I think that I still accomplished my my goal at the beginning. So yeah.
Okay, as the motorcycle passes by, um, let's finish off. It's been a great session today, Dean, and let's just have a couple of quick minutes to think about. Jen says, who's thinking about 22-23? Well, a lot of us are thinking of 22-23 already, Jen. So what are your early goals for 22-23? Obviously, we're far from retirement, and that's not one of the goals. So what would you say your goal for 22-23 is, Atenas? Talk to us.
My goal for 22-23 is I plan on keep teaching, keep pushing my students to give their best, and see adversities as lessons to be learned. And I plan to incorporate more writing into my lessons, because I really feel that this year we lack off on writing. But yes, that's one of my goals.
Adrienne? Thank you, Atenas. Adrienne?
I think my goal for myself, for personal, is just to become more of a leader myself. I've kind of already taken on, we started a student council with our kids. So just becoming a leader with our kids, and then also just with my coworkers. As I was saying before, I feel like I was able to break down some of those barriers that I had built up, and those kind of shield that I had put on myself the last couple of years, and I finally was able to break those down. And I think I can emerge a little more as a leader myself, for both my students and for the campus and for my staff.
Thank you, Adrienne. Jen, I know that squirrel's always in that hamster, that little cage going in circles real quick. Give us one of your goals, because you would give us like
Okay,
7 hours.
I was about to say, I always have those, hey, give me my time, right? Once I know how much time I have, I mean, I could talk all night about, goals, but ultimately, the goal is really for us to build on that stakeholder piece, because when we are communicative and we start with our administrative teams, we start from our adult perspectives. Our goal is really to focus in and mandate I want to mandate self-awareness. I want you to get to know you better. I need self-management. I need our administrative team to be better at managing things that are happening in their own world. We love our administrators, but how many times do we really start out our meetings talking to them about self-care, self-management, self-awareness? Hey, socialization, appreciation. I think about it all the time, and ultimately it will trickle down. And what we want to do is really get the adult perspective, and that will be the mandate is self-care. Only you know you. Adrienne, thank you so much for sharing, because you reminded me sometimes when we feel appreciated, we're going to perform. If we don't feel appreciated, we're going to end up digressing. And so I love the way you shared that, because even no matter what your role is, as you're watching this, you can be one of our beautiful up above administrators. You can be one of our wonderful, amazing teachers. I feel like a lot of our administrators feel the need to be into the trenches with our teachers to really feel what is it like again. Please remind me how much I need to appreciate my teachers and support them and mandate self-care.
I'll tell you what, we are in the red zone, and we are just having another great push on a Thursday night to get a little bit better from learning from each other. So you know what? I really appreciate Jennifer, Adrienne, and Athanas, you guys here tonight speaking about your story, how you came out of 2021 into 2022, the growth that you have acquired, and more importantly, the vision you have for yourselves moving forward. Think about that for a second. That's powerful in itself. You are continuous learners. You are just rocking it. Don't slow down. You are true examples of what education is all about. And I'll tell you, Josh, another Thursday night touchdown.
That's right, Dean. And you know what? Right before we do another touchdown on the red zone, just like to remind everybody one thing is, you know what, as we close out the year, please, I believe in amendment number 1, freedom of speech. I have no problem with that whatsoever, even with people I don't agree with. But you know what, as educators and through the hard times that we've had, we can't and should not, and I highly suggest to everybody to not scare away future educators.
Bingo.
If you need to vent about how horrible your assistant principal is or how your department chair is, can you vent to your grandma? Can you please vent at home? Can you not vent on social media? And if you really have to, can you not destroy our profession? Because a lot of us really went through Hiroshima and Nagasaki the last 2 years. And just because you want to leave, that's fine. Amendment number 1, you have every right. But you know what? All of us, you know what we need to do? We need to drown them out with our success stories. Everyone needs to post on social media the beautiful cards and notes and messages parents give you, kids give you, because we need to drown out that noise. We all know there are no teachers out there. We all know there are no substitutes. And when you're out there poisoning the well, you know what? That doesn't make it easier for all of us that love our job. And you know what? Maybe education wasn't for you. And that happens, right? That happens in many places. But we need to make sure we do drown out with positivity and love all the toxicity that educators put out there on social media. Because you know what? If they want to complain, they'll do 7 billion posts on Facebook and they'll give you details. But do they say that about the good things? No, not even. Oh, we don't say that. And you know what? I'll be remiss if I don't say this in closing. Since we're all Texans here, Dean, please excuse us. I know you're not as fortunate as us here in Texas. But mucho amor a las familias de Uvalde. Mucho corazón a las familias de Uvalde. Let's not just make that a sign. Let's not make that only a message on Facebook or Twitter. Let's do something as educators that we all are shocked by it. Over there in Massachusetts, I know it's affected you. I know in Alaska it's affected you. You know, we need to reach out and not just only with words. We need to have like a little card writing campaign. Make sure the kids write something right and send it out there. Because you know what? The effect is not just right now or 1 month or three months. That's forever. Those beautiful little faces are not coming home. There will forever be an empty chair in that dinner table. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but you know what? That is our educational system right now for many years. So all we could do is try to avoid all that stuff by making sure we feed nonstop positivity into the body, the education body, and make sure that we're stronger together, that we're not toxic with each other, and we give our beautiful children nothing but light. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being at the Red Zone today. There's a lot of weird things going on out there. Protect yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kids. Take care of your families, and love each other. We'll see each other this Sunday at 7 p.m. Unlock the Middle with Ken Williams, who always talks about that school. Are you part of that school? What do you mean that school? He'll talk to you about that school and about equity. So join us this Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ken Williams, the guy with the cowboy hat. Join us. Great job. Red Zone out.
Hey, Josh, I don't know if I can compete against that. You're on a sugar high, my friend, and you are selling everything we're doing. Everybody out there, have a great rest of the week. And thank you so much for our guests tonight for being here. More importantly, keep doing the little things that make everybody better around you, because that's what we're all about. Hey, be well, stay smart, and be a champion for every kid that you come across. It'll make a difference for all of us. Have a great night, everybody. Cass, stay on for one moment, please.